Welcome to another edition of Your Impact Attack. That's right, it's Your Impact Attack. It belongs to you guys. It's coming to you from the VBC, which includes you. You're the C. The C is you. It stands for chat. It used to stand for something else. It stands for chat now. But who's the VB? Well, I guess the V stands for the vet, which is me. And with me, as always, my tag team partner, Brandon, tagging. Boom. Brandon, what's up?
Not much, man. How you doing tonight, homie?
Man, just trying to survive in this hot heat. And that's all we can really do at this time is try to survive. Hopefully everybody's staying cool, not only cool in temperature, but cool in mindset. And, we're going to talk some Impact Wrestling with you tonight, like we always do. Before we do, let's go ahead and acknowledge who you are, because who is with us so far this evening as we get ready to talk about this trivial episode of Impact Wrestling right here.
All right, let's see who we got tonight. We got Retro Rocket Review. We got Elizabeth, Javi Uchida, Steve Eggert, Chris Winland. Well, came in, looks like he was here earlier along with Lab Rat when we got this thing set up. How you guys doing tonight? Whoop, whoop.
Yeah, I think Chris was asking us a question earlier. Something about is there anything on Impact that we look forward to besides Moose? And that's a good question. That's a good question. I don't know. For me, it's more of a question of, what is Impact going to show me besides Moose is basically the way I look at it. We know there's some decent talents there, but even in the case of Moose, it's like, okay, well, what are we going to do? What are we going to see? What are you going to showcase? How are you going to showcase these talents in an entertaining way? Because I don't have any faith that the show is going to be entertaining. So I really am just looking at, like, can I find the entertaining bits within the show, just among the individuals usually. So I look forward to seeing Moose. I look forward to seeing, Joe Hendry. I look forward to seeing Santino. I look forward to seeing Leo Rush. Certain people I look forward to seeing, even if the things they're doing are going to be stupid. I want to see, can they still be good even doing things I don't like? So that's what it is for me. But what about you?
This episode in particular, I was kind of looking forward to kind of seeing, like, okay, how are they going to, they're actually going to explain the whole thing with Diener and Eric. All right, I'm interested to see just how they do it, just out of sheer morbid curiosity.
Yeah, it's morbid, all right.
Yep.
When we get to that, spoiler alert, guys. If you want to stay tuned to the end, I don't have any muffins here, but I definitely sorely missing them.
Yeah, this was definitely a muffin-worthy show.
So hopefully that answers Mr. Winland's question. But as far as everything else, you'll just have to stay tuned. But so kind of it was a pretty big weekend, I guess. We had SummerSlam, for all you SummerSlam, you WWE fans. We had SummerSlam, the biggest party of the summer. I mean, I guess they, put on quite a show in Detroit. Ford Field, I know Ford Field pretty well. That's where I was when I was at WrestleMania that time. And the place is huge. So, a matter of fact, I remember, funny enough, one of this is like a weird wrestling memory. I may have told this before, but like when I'm first arriving at the building, like I'm coming down this whatever entrance, I don't know, it's whatever entrance, I guess athletes and stuff, enter the building. Like it's not like a main entrance, it's like a side entrance. So I'm walking down this hallway. And, I see a bunch of wrestlers, on the way there. And, like, we're coming in, and CM Punk is there. And he's in a good mood. It's his first WrestleMania. And he high fives each one of us as, like, he walks by us. then the next thing I see is like it's John Cena and the Great Khali, okay, walking together, and John Cena like just walking with Great Khali, and I overhear John Cena as he looks up to Great Khali, and he's like, "It's a pretty big place." Like it just looked like the kind of thing that would be like a single panel cartoon, you know, like that you would put on like a little postcard or something of like a, you know, this little guy talking to a giant and telling him how big something is. So I just thought I thought that was kind of funny. But yes, it is a huge place, and they had a huge show. I was thoroughly what's the word I'm looking for? Irritated by it. Just the fact of like I'm looking at so much talent in one place, and it's just the same old tired WWE bullshit booking and everything that goes along with it. I'm looking at these people and the way they're being showcased, how nobody has any idea what they're supposed to be doing at that, you know, with those individuals. Kind of like, I mean, I look at Impact like that to a degree. Like, I feel like they make boring choices at Impact, or they miss things. With WWE, it's like they don't even know who these characters are some of the time. You had, for example, I'll give you one example, just like the
Insidious
women.
Asuka.
Insidious Asuka. Well, I'm sitting at home with spinal surgery, pal. So maybe we get him to leave people alone, but it's like you have Ronda Rousey and Shayna Baszler, right?
Yep.
And they're supposed to have an MMA style, MMA rules match, right? But forget the fact that what does MMA rules even mean, because they don't have rounds, and they didn't have a clock, and they didn't have, you know, corner people, and they didn't have anything other than just the fact that, you know, the stipulations of how you could win. But let's just look at the fact that you took two women that you positioned as heels, the kind of heels that would like they were maiming other women, like they were injuring other women on the, you know, on the show, on the roster, and laughing in their face about it. And then you want to split this team up and expect us to have like sympathy, or choose which one of these evil bitches is our favorite. Like, and then the crowd was sitting there chanting boring. They just weren't into it, you know, and part of that was because they didn't really, who are you supposed to get behind in this weird match that is not, it doesn't have the flow of your normal pro wrestling match. Even though I thought they did a good job, the crowd was totally out of it, partially because the match was weird, but also because who are they supposed to get behind here? Neither one of these women is sympathetic. They come on Monday Night Raw and they cry about their feelings and stuff like that, and they both come off as pathetic, you know? And now the crowd has no choice. Like, who's your hero in this? What are you supposed to do? You're just waiting for it to be over. So that's like one example of how the WWE has failed the characters that, you know, they're trying to present to us. So I don't know if you caught any of SummerSlam or what you think about all that, but
I read some of the results. It just, and that, like the thing with the Usos, how does, like, you went through this whole thing where they ended up staying together and then they turn on for no, like, that made no sense at all. That seemed like a swerve for the sake of a swerve. Like, who are we going to have turn on him? Oh, Savage Brother turn on him. After they did the whole thing of is he or isn't he? And they didn't.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, that's another thing. It's like you're artificially extending the storyline because
you got nothing else.
You got nothing else. You got nothing else, and you don't even have anything else for this storyline. You completely you had no plans. And anybody can go back on channelattitude.com and listen to the archive of, you know, around WrestleMania time. Go back and listen to the shows that I was on around WrestleMania time. You'll hear me say, and I quote, "They've got nothing. They've got nothing after this. They've done everything they could to get to these WrestleMania matches, and after WrestleMania, they will have nothing. They've left nothing for the future. They have no plans. They have no creative ability. They have nothing, and you're seeing it. They're treading water with things that are just obvious. It's like, well, we know we want to do something with Cody and Brock, and we know we want the bloodline to keep going. And then everything else is just like thrown together. And the Jimmy turn, how much sense does the Jimmy turn make? You
already blew you already paid that off.
Yes. You beat Roman Reigns. Who beat Roman Reigns? Jey Uso. He pinned Roman Reigns. How did he pin him? It was in a tag match with his brother. Jimmy. You were in there kicking the shit out of Roman Reigns, as a team, as a brother team. And now you're just back to, oh yeah, I'll just go back to Roman now. No. So just, it's pathetic. It's just pathetic. It's as pathetic as Ronda and Shayna came off in those well-produced interviews. Like, the stuff they do all looks slick and professional and everything, but then they just don't understand what they have. So, but hey, some people enjoy SummerSlam, some people got some recognition, I think, Ricochet came off well, even with a loss. It seemed, again, a stupid, like, I'm thinking, like, the guys had a decent match from what I saw. I mean, I watched it, but I did watch it in double speed because, time constraints. So I didn't really get to breathe in the match they had, but I feel like they had a good match, and I think Ricochet did a good job. And of course, Logan Paul is, he is what he is.
That dude's a freak. How did he get it this quick?
I don't know. But,
and not only that, but elevate the people he's in there with. How?
Yeah. Well, I think I can answer. The elevating is the spot. Like, obviously, when he's having a match with Roman Reigns, he's not right, elevating Roman Reigns.
Exactly.
But
if anything, that's more to give him some cred and rub.
Mm-hmm. That's right. But that's another problem. You went to that way too fast. Like, you left nowhere else for him to go. If you're not beating Roman Reigns, so you left him nowhere to go but down from there, which is a problem. But what I mean is, you elevate Ricochet not in the match, but in the status of, here's a major focused angle, because if Logan Paul's there, you want to actually put focus on it, not half-ass it like you did the Ronda Rousey one. You want to you're trying to focus on this. You're trying to, showcase Logan Paul, the celebrity guest. So by nature, that puts Ricochet in the main event spot. So he has to go on Raw. He has to get on the mic. He has to sell some of this stuff. And I felt that he stepped up and did a good job in all of the things that he was asked to do leading up to this, even if the stuff itself sometimes wasn't the best. I would have avoided as much, and this is a problem across WWE and many wrestling promotions as well. I would avoid the physicality as much as possible before the matches you're trying to sell. You're a promoter trying to sell matches, and you have to leave a little bit of physicality for the actual matches. You can't just be getting in fights all the time and then expect to sell a wrestling match, like I keep saying. But regardless, I'm just saying that Ricochet being put in that spot, I thought he stepped up. I thought he came off very well. I've always seen Ricochet as a main event star, always. And ever since he showed up, I mean, I've known of him longer than that. I've known of him from Lucha Underground. I've known of him from, going to New Japan and doing the meme superhero pose down match with Will Ospreay that went viral and all that stuff. I've known all that, But when he got to NXT and they presented him in NXT in a certain way with a certain look and a certain music and, you know, everything, I just was finally like, okay, this is what they've been missing in WWE is you miss that main event like babyface that can do it all. You know, like a pure babyface, a pure exciting, you know, athlete, the kind of the way I guess they wanted people to look at Shawn Michaels in 1996, you know, where he seemed kind of like the underdog, but not necessarily the underdog because he was always the one that was, you know, on top kind of.
I immediately thought
So
of AJ Styles for that.
AJ Styles is a good one. They keep bouncing AJ Styles back and forth heel, but you know, like I think he works best as a babyface in those situations. And that's again the fact they bounce AJ Styles. Like, what is he? You know, that's
Who is
one
he?
of the things I'm talking about. You don't know what characters you have working for you, so you just keep trying shit because you don't understand it. You know, you don't understand why you're not getting the max value, so you keep flip flopping. But Ricochet's a pure babyface. And he's that guy that's just the look he has, you know, his presentation in terms of just the way he thinks about his ring gear and he correlates it to certain things he likes, like anime characters or superhero movies or things. And but his gear always looks really good. You know, he's handsome, he's in shape, he's in incredible shape. He can obviously do incredible things. He can sell, he can fight. When he's fighting, he looks more realistic than a lot of guys that are known for flipping. A lot of flippers. So like I see everything that you want in a main event babyface from Ricochet, except the flipping. But he also has the flipping, right? Like, but that's the least of the, I'm saying that's the least of his good points of why I look at him as marketable, you know? I don't know if you see Ricochet the same way, but I've always seen him in that picture, and they've used him. You know, they did have a match with Brock Lesnar, which was a very quick squash. You know, I think it was one of those Saudi Arabia shows. But there's been times when they've trusted him to be in that spot, and then what they've done with it after that is, you know, they let him languish. It's like I don't think they really know what they have, but he could get pushed even further.
Yeah, they don't know what they have with a lot of their guys.
Yeah. So anyway, you know, like whatever. We could talk about how WWE's dropping the ball all day long. But here's one way they may not be dropping the ball. Because you may have seen in the news that Nick Aldis is reportedly backstage at Raw tonight. I don't know if he is, because I haven't had anybody stooge it off to me who's there. But, you know, reportedly, I heard.
Reportedly, sources say.
Yeah, sources say. So, anyway, it's PW Insider that's reporting this.
Via Paul Heyman, via Mike Johnson.
Yep. So you can probably, you know, put some stock in it then. Yeah, they supposedly, let's see what this article says. Okay, yeah, potential behind the scenes roles. Yeah, WWE reportedly want to hire out its producers in July. So yes. Yeah, this is just a big fat nothing. This article. It's just 4 paragraphs of them saying, you know, basically, yeah. So, but anyway, that you know, I don't know if I want Nick Aldis as a producer.
No,
you know, like when I kind of a waste.
I'm not saying
right
he'd
there.
be a bad. Yeah, I'm not saying he'd be a bad one. It's just you'd get so much more out of him having him as a character.
Absolutely, and you could even have, you know, like in a producer role, and an on-screen character role. You don't have to just, you know, what else are you supposed to do the rest of the time you're there? So I don't know, but it would probably be stressful having that on your plate. Like you got to go out there and worry about yourself, and then you got to be worrying about somebody else as soon as you're done, or before you do it, or whatever. So it's got to be kind of hectic, but whatever. Better than sitting around doing nothing like most of the people on the roster there do. which is not a knock on them. I'm just saying, like, you got all these people, use them. Instead, you see that's again, that's another problem with the WWE. You got how many hundreds of people under contract, and we see the same 10 people every, like, how many Judgment Day segments are we going to get on a given night? You know, you come out here, you say, we run this place. Like, it's just like Vince Russo says. They come out there, they talk about, they run the place, they lose the matches, and then they come out and talk about how they run the place. That's the Judgment Day loop.
Almost like they're Giselle Shawn company.
Almost like that. Even Giselle doesn't say she runs the place, you know. But it's the same. It's the same basic premise. So, so Nick Aldis, that would be another person on there that would, you know, add some newness, add some variety. You could make a big splash. You could have. What do you got for Cody? You don't have anything for Cody. Could you not put Nick Aldis in there with the history of Cody, of them trading the NWA championship back and forth? Of course, they're not going to put that over, although they could. Why not?
If Vince is out of commission and Triple H is calling the shots, I could see him doing that.
You could see it, right? But, you know, whatever. They've got the, again, they'll have that attitude of, it doesn't matter what you did before you got here. So you could say that to Nick Aldis. Hey, it doesn't matter what you did before you got here. And then they'll be like, oh, Logan Paul. Well, you could just be in whatever matches you want. They don't treat him like it doesn't matter what you did before you got here. Only Nick Aldis, right? Or anybody else that's accomplished things. Or whoever they decide it doesn't matter what they accomplished before they got here. So, you know, again, very selective with that. But I hope he does well there. Whatever he does, I hope I hope he has fun. I hope he's happy. I hope he likes being on the road as much as the WWE is on the road, because they're gonna, you know, he's definitely never had to do that, I don't think. I don't know how much Nick Aldis has ever done this particular grind. So I hope you like airports, buddy. But yeah, Nick Aldis. So we'll see. We shall see. Nick Aldis. All right. So that's, you know, pretty much it for the news. Unless there's anything else you'd like to talk about or comment or.
I mean, the other big news is, of course, Vince McMahon being investigated by the feds and subpoenas and search warrants. But you know, nothing we can say that hasn't already been covered on that by people who are much more well-versed and knowledgeable in that field.
Yeah, even though I haven't seen any details on that either. Like, I really haven't. No one's been able to say what the stuff is all about. You know, just that it's happening.
Yeah, it could be anything from the NDAs to insider trading to other illegal activities you might be involved in. Who knows?
Right. Most likely it's probably related to the stuff that was already, you know, being investigated before. And yes, it is curious of the timing. You know, we've had everybody from even Jim Cornette and Vince Russo both saying, again, these guys, Cornette and Russo, man, if they hadn't met in the business, they'd get along great now. I think they'd be like best friends now. But you know,
Russo would have him on the network as just an entertaining rant guy.
But they both said the same thing, where they're like, you know, all of a sudden we have the federal government investigating or doing something, and Vince McMahon selling, like whether it's the neck brace in the steroid trial or the fucking, oh, I just had back surgery, I'm gonna be out, you know, like, oh, also I'm getting investigated, you know. It's just like, is this a worker working, you know?
Well, they were both there for that.
Yeah. So I mean, so they kind of see the thought process, but even if it's not to get sympathy, it's just to distract or whatever the case is. But whatever keeps him away from the actual product, right? I just don't think he has any value in terms of the day-to-day hands-on anymore. I think if people want to talk to him and ask him questions, advice, that's one thing. Like if they're soliciting their own advice, that's one thing. If it's him telling people what they must do, that's always a bad thing because he's been out of touch for his entire life, probably. Like
Yeah,
completely out of touch.
Yeah, he should be kind of the guy saying like, "Hey, what do you think? I'm kind of stuck. What do you think I should do here?"
Yeah. So that's basically it. And then you got to take that advice with a grain of salt too, because like I said, out of touch. Man's out of touch. That's all you can really say. So, but that's fine. Lots of people are out of touch. We're all out of touch in our own ways. Depends on what we're trying to touch. I'm pretty sure I know what Retro Rocket Review is trying to touch. And I'm pretty sure I know what he has to settle for touching. But anyway, Chris Winland asked any insight into Big E's injury update. Well, I don't know about any insight into his injury update. Supposedly, all three of the New Day members are supposed to be on Raw tonight. Which I'm not watching Raw, so I don't know if this is happening. Maybe anybody else can say. But first of all, click off of Raw. What are you doing? You're supposed to be watching us. And second of all, yeah, let us know if you are just going to ignore my demands. Let us know if the New Day does indeed reunite. But
I did see something about how a doctor did advise him to never wrestle again.
Yeah, I remember hearing that too. So I also advised that to Big E, for whatever my word is worth, pretty much the moment that this happened to him. I was saying, like, look, they don't give a fuck about you. Meaning the idea of the company of the WWE. Like there's value for things that Big E can do besides having matches, like obviously you don't need him to have matches. If that's something that he wants to really do and make that personal journey, like so that you could say, I overcame this and got back to somewhere they told me I could never be. If he's that kind of guy that loves it that much, then I support that. But if you are thinking, I don't know, maybe it's time to hang it up, I support that too. I support whatever Big E's decision is, but I hope he doesn't think it's something that he owes anybody or that he has to do. That's all I hope.
Yeah, right. If he's doing it, hopefully he does it for himself to go, I can still do this.
Yes. And you don't need to. You can have the New Day without Big E wrestling.
And he accomplished a lot.
Right. So, there's nothing left for Big E to prove. He got to the highest point that you can get, and it may not have gone the way that he wanted it, and they may not have done it correctly. But in terms of wrestling accomplishments, I think most wrestlers would agree that being WWE champion is about as high as it gets, in terms of that. Like if you want to say like, oh, I made it this far, I think, that you'd have to think like that. But yeah, we don't need Big E to get back in the ring. We care about Big E enough that we would support whatever he does, if it is in fact with the WWE, which I think it should be. I think the New Day should be as together as long as they want to be. They're always consistently entertaining and fun. You could even use them, and I would, and they have, as the pitch people for whatever, sponsorships they have, or they can always make things entertaining. At least they can try, even when it's terrible. I mean, if anybody watched that Netflix Choose Your Own Adventure with the Undertaker thing, like the New Day going to the Undertaker's house or whatever the fuck that was, I thought it was completely terrible, but they obviously they didn't suck in it. It was just they were trying to make, lemons out of, or lemonade out of lemons. Speaking of which, did you see Becky Lynch post that picture where she's in a kitchen full of lemons and she's like, I'm just trying to make lemonade with all these lemons I've been handed. And I guess I'll still call it retweet. I retweeted that picture. It says, sounds like someone I know. So, not saying Becky got it from me, but just pointing it out. But yeah. And then we have also any thoughts if Randy Orton could or should even return anytime soon? Again, it's the same situation of where Randy Orton's got nothing left to do in a wrestling ring, so he doesn't need to. But of course, he certainly couldn't hurt. A lot of people were saying that that's a potential, a potential match for Roman Reigns. And even if you don't make Randy the guy, it's still a good, credible, people would believe that he would do it. Like if you did that right, if you built that up right, people would believe that Randy Orton could be the guy to end the title reign. So that would be a good match that they really haven't had. In my memory, they've never really had a match. They've certainly never had a match as long as Roman's been doing this whole thing, I don't think.
Not since Roman's been heel. I don't. Or is that? I think they might have during like something with Riddle. I mean, they had a little program. I don't remember.
Yeah, there may have been something like that. The last time Randy Orton was anywhere around the title, it was the Drew McIntyre title reign, which they put an abrupt end to that by taking the belt off him with Randy Orton winning it, which was just weird. But again, not understanding what they have, not doing the right business. But yeah, I think I mean there's always value with Randy Orton. Randy Orton's now one of those equity guys that is a permanent baby face, like he just, whatever he does, the crowd will be into him. So, if he wants to come back, fine. He's still young enough to do it. So yeah, sure. Why not? But, so that's Randy Orton. But anyway, let's go ahead and talk about the opposite of Randy Orton. Impact Wrestling.
Whoop.
And we're going to do we have a fresh and ready, a hot and ready punching up Impact?
Yes, actually we have the latest one from the 7/27.
The latest? Fresh out of the oven?
Fresh out the oven.
Hot and ready? Hot now? All right. Let's dig in before it gets cold.
All right. So we open up with the recap catch-up package, intro pyro ballyhoo, go to the announce table.
Catch-up package? I'm sorry, I'm going to have to do that every time.
Yeah. And then we go to the announce table where they go over the card for the night. And, of course, they give their thoughts on recent developments. Go to our first match, Trinity and Danny Luna versus the Coven. Coven music, and it basically goes exactly like it does on the show. Then we cut to backstage with Rush, Bully, Moose, and Myers, with that same segment being the one that we saw on the show, and go to our first commercial break. Then we come back to backstage with Nick Aldis, and he cuts the same promo we cut on the show. And then we have the Dango vignette as the same one that's on the show. And I mean, I know it's a lot of the same stuff that's on the show, but it's just moved around and maybe some stuff added to build a different main event.
Well, you were relatively pleased with the show last week, so.
And then we got match number 2, Swinger versus Dice. It goes just like it did on the show, because at least there is some stuff on there that we found funny.
Mm-hmm.
Then we cut to a new pre-tape of Leo in his locker room. Shelley comes in and mentions that even though he's not happy with Rush lately, he still respects him because he's always been his own man. And if he joins Bully and others, that respect is gone. Leo responds that this decision is none of Shelley's business, and Shelley leaves. And we go to our second commercial break. Then we come back with a recap of BTI, Yuya beating Kenny King. Then we have the same backstage segment on the show between Santino, Hendry, and Uemura. And then we have a new segment Eric Young is backstage getting warmed up, and he says tonight is about respect between him and Aldis, and may the best man win. Then we go to our third match: Eric Young versus Nick Aldis. Nick Aldis music and entrance, Eric Young music and entrance. Match goes like it does, and then we have the design attack. Before we go to our third commercial break. Come back to the show with the package from Jake Something. And then we go to the announce table where they give us an update that Eric Young's going to be fine, and they talk about their history with his history with the design. Then we go to match 4, Giselle Shaw with Evans and Vidal versus Masha Slamovich with Kelly. Shaw music and entrance, Slamovich music and entrance, and it goes just like it does, except we actually get some heel heat after the match. And then they go backstage to another Leo Rush. Bully Ray comes in and he says he saw what this conversation between him and Shelly. And then Bully says that Shelly saw what Rush did to Sabin, and he's afraid the same will happen to him if Rush goes with his option C. Then go to our fourth commercial break. Come back with a package of upcoming dates. The same backstage segment we saw with Tracy and Kazarian. Then we saw the same thing with Rascals and Bailey. Match goes, and then the match is up next, goes just like it did on the show, followed by the same Angels package we saw on the show. And then a new backstage segment with Leo Rush where Gia approaches him, asks him what he's going to do. He says he's tired of people trying to push him one way. The world will know by the end of tonight's main event before I go to the fifth commercial break. New Japan hype video. Go to the announce table where they hype next week's show. Main event, Moose and Brian Myers versus Time Splitters. Moose music and entrance. Time Splitters music and entrance. Longer version of the match that ends like it does with Leo Rush joining the heels and no Sabin running down for the save, because I think that would actually make a better babyface moment for later on down the line.
Okay, so
tonight's about Leo Rush's choice.
Yeah, so more Leo Rush, more threads of Leo Rush, focus on Leo Rush, no Chris Sabin, I can get behind those decisions. All right. Well, yeah. So like you said, that was mostly the same. Flip-flopping the design angle and the main event angle, which is, it seems like they really want to focus more on that Leo Rush group, the group of guys, and whether Leo Rush is going to join them or not, more so than they care really about Eric Young right now. So I don't know. We'll see if Eric Young being back is enough to get them to like refocus on the design. Because even though the design's there, it's like,
Tonight's show
don't really feel.
Yeah, and tonight didn't do him any favors.
Yeah, it did not. It really didn't. But hey, it ended the show, and even though the taste was bad, I mean, you left some taste in somebody's mouth. So, I mean, yeah. All right, well, let's get right into it. Let's get into the Impact from, what date was this?
August 3rd.
August 3rd. So Trinity comes out for an in-ring. And then she's interrupted by Deanna for some standard wrestling banter back and forth. And then they get interrupted by the Coven for a little more banter. And then Taylor does the worst Gambit impression I've ever seen. And she throws the cards in their face. And then 10 security guards come out to break this up.
Immediately, almost like they're standing there the whole time waiting for it to happen.
Yeah. I mean, I think there was more security guards in here than unique appearances on this show. I mean, and again, we never see these when somebody's like attempting a murder in the ring or backstage or whatever, but don't let the women scuffle. My God, we can't have that. So anyway, yeah, 10 people. So imagine it taking 3 people to hold back Taylor Wilde. You know what I mean? Like, all right. So Santino comes out and he says this match will happen right now. So they have the match. And that's Triana versus Coven is what I have here. And they have a match. And then after an accidental kick from Trinity, Deanna gets pinned. after taking the Coven's move, the Witch's Cauldron or whatever it's called. I don't know. I just made that up. So yeah, so Deanna takes a fall here, and then they do this thing like it would really matter. Like, that's another thing that I'm so tired of this. Like, even though they didn't really do it here, but I could see the thinking in the booking, right, where the person accidentally hits the person, and then that person is like, "What? Have you never watched? You're a wrestler, and you've had a wrestling career. You've never watched wrestling before. You've never seen how many times a person can accidentally hit someone else. Like, this happens. You should not make that the focus of your animosity for, like, I keep saying that's such a lame." Like, it's such a lame reason to get friction between people. It'd be one thing if it kept happening, right? Or if it was so terribly blatantly obvious, like it was in that one match, where he's like, "Are you even trying not to hit me?" In this tag match. I forget who it was now, but
Oh yeah, it was I think it was Bully and Macklin versus Edwards and Kazarian.
yeah, it was. Yeah, that was it. So
That was so bad.
Right. So, I mean, shit like that. But that was like in the main event of SummerSlam. You had, Solo's obviously interfering in this match, right? And there's a point where Roman's going to set up his spear, and Jay pulls Solo, like he pulls him into the path of the spear. Like he's supposed to be holding Jay up for the spear. Like we couldn't have foreseen what was about to happen. And then he pulls Solo in, and Solo gets speared. Then, like a couple minutes later, Roman's trying to tell Solo what to do, and like you see the WWE like focus on Solo, and Solo's like holding his ribs and staring a hole through Roman Reigns, like you speared me, you son of a bitch. I'm just like, dude, fuck you with this soap opera melodramatic bullshit. Just get on with it.
If you should be angry at anybody, you should be angry at Jay.
Yes, he pulled you because you felt him pull you, and you're still going to be mad at Roman? You're just going to stare at him? I don't know, man. I don't know if I should help you in this match that I only am here to help you in because I don't have a match, and I'm not in this match, and I'm only here to help you, but damn it, my brother pulled me in front of you, so I'm mad at you. Like, fuck this shit. You think they think that shit is so cool, like, look at the dramatic storytelling. No, fuck you. It's the shits. So anyway, I'm just tired of that.
That's the stuff that makes people laugh at wrestling.
Right. If they even paid attention that far, Most of the time they're walking through the room and just scoff at it and then keep walking. And rightly so. All right. So what'd you think of the match? And I take it that you agree that accidental partner kicks are not good enough for friction. They already have enough friction. The fact that it's a former champion going after her belt again.
Yep. Yeah. Plus, they've established on this show that they go back and watch the replays and see what happens.
Right. So,
at least this Trinity's promo, I liked it. I thought it was her best live one because I felt like there was some real emotion behind it and didn't sound as robotic. So it definitely stood out from her previous ones. I thought King's material, though, was horrible. Like, my first thought was, is Vinnie Mac riding Impact while he's recovering?
Yes. Yes, he is.
And this match, really, if they were going to go for this finish and the way that and the length of it, this would have worked as the main event, not like the show opener.
Well, you'll have to stay tuned for Punching Up Impact to see if this match remains as the opener. All right. Well, next is the Rascals backstage promo. They are in the lights. The lights are back here. That's another thing I forgot to mention. The lights are back. They are less egregious than they have been in the past, but there is a little accent in the back corner of every single one of these almost. There's only one that there's not, I think, and I'll mention that, but yes, the lights are blue here. It's a blue one, I think. So anyway, they're in the middle of their promo, and then D'Amore walks in, and he basically, says, uh, any more shenanigans are gonna, get them indefinitely suspended. So they'll miss out on the tag team tournament. Yada yada yada. Not really much else to add there, unless you do have something to add.
Yeah, the placement of them shooting that right by the material safety data sheet just took me right out of it.
That's it. It is important though for the Rascals, because if they're going to dispose of that aerosol paint can, they must follow the proper procedures. So it's good that it's there for them to look at.
I wonder what the proper OSHA procedures for spraying it in people's faces.
Ooh. Well, normally that's not an occupational hazard that you would have to worry about, like in a pro wrestling sense. It shouldn't be, but here we are. I guess that gets added. So, well, anyway, speaking of safety, Fat Eddie and Thin Lishy are cutting a promo in the lights, also green, I think. At least this one's green. And Lish is challenged by Jody Threat. So yeah, at least she didn't carry Lish off or anything. She just walked up and challenged.
Yeah, and that was completely forgotten about with no follow-up.
Yep. Labrat says spray paint is huge in wrestling right now. He's probably had multiple paints tested on him over the years. He's very familiar with it. But yes, you got CM Punk spraying the X on the Real World Championship. Let's see. Anything to add about the fat guy and the little girl?
Nah.
Okay.
Just it is what it was.
All right. Next is Alan Angels versus Heath. We're getting this feud, hot and cooking. Whatever they have the match, Heath hits the wake up call. It woke me up because this shit put me asleep. I ain't watching this shit. Are you serious? Fuck that. So, wake up call did its job in more ways than one. What about you? What'd you see?
God bless the announcers for trying to make sense out of this and actually make it something. Trying.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know about this Alan Angels guy. But, yeah. I mean, he's getting his TV time in, which I think that was his main concern from leaving AEW. Like, what am I gonna get out of this? How am I gonna shine? And even if you go from being the forgotten job guy in a group of guys, which is what he almost came in to be for the design, except he wasn't forgotten because they were definitely on TV every week. So, especially if you're on TV every week and you're doing sets of tapings, then what that means is that when you're at those tapings, you feel like you're constantly busy. Like you're doing 3 weeks worth of tapings in one day. So if you're on TV every week, that means they got to use you at least 3 times. So it seems like a big busy day for you. But yeah. So, well, we'll see what happens next. Speaking of Eric Young, Eric with Gia, no music underneath. They address the video, and Eric iterates confidently that the world will see what happened. So, yeah, we sure will.
I'm shocked they even address like the absurdity of it. Like, yes, we will address that a stabbing, how that happened, and how we're gonna get out of that.
Can't wait. I can't wait to see you try to talk your way out of this one. But I will have to wait. We'll all have to wait. And we're gonna have to wait through Jake something versus Davey Vega. I just my notes for this match was Well, that was my whole notes.
Yep, just a showcase for Jake.
Yeah. As soon as you see Davey Vega, you're like, well, what do you think's going to happen?
Interestingly enough, I actually knew him for quite a while.
Oh, okay. Can you give us any information on Davey Vega?
He's an all right dude. He actually trained me for a little bit when our original trainer kind of had to take a break for a little bit. He was, good dude.
How was he as a trainer?
It's actually pretty decent. I mean, he'd push us from a physicality standpoint. I remember we did like what was it? One day where it was like stations of like 10 minutes of workouts, just back and forth, or just in groups and just going from one thing to another. And I remember being soaked in sweat afterward.
Was it like wrestling drills type stuff?
They're included, yeah, along with some like weight drills or lifting drills.
Huh.
Like one thing we would do is we'd do like the 555s are, right?
Depends.
It was a blow up drill. Basically, you have to it'd be two guys. They'd whip each other across the ring 5 times each. The other guy did a reverse back and forth 5 times each, and then drop down leapfrog. Each guy had to do it 5 times each, and then each got to do an up and over in the corner 5 times each.
I don't know if I ever did that specifically, but I've done all those things as drills. Yeah, so.
Yeah, he'd have us do that and have us do corner drills right after that, like as we're out of breath. So it's like, all right, you got to learn how to concentrate and think and focus while you're out of breath.
Right. Yeah, those can be rough for the people that don't have the wind for it, and you gotta worry if somebody's gonna get hurt. Did you ever see anybody like try to do like a drop down leapfrog and then get crotched because the guy didn't get up high enough?
Plenty of times.
Yeah.
All the time. Those are always fun.
Yeah. Well, that's interesting to integrate weightlifting and stuff in the middle of that. It sounds like a recipe for danger, if you ask me. But hey, everybody's got their own style, I guess. Villains Inc. I guess I'll call these guys. I don't know what else to call this group of people. They congratulate Leo on his choice of joining. This is in the lights too. The lights are red. And they basically talk themselves up like, you made the right choice, kid, or whatever, and all this other stuff. They're trying to, Moose is trying to explain to Leo, we're not asking you to be our friend. We're just asking you to join this group, like that's it. So, there you go. So this is our Moose sighting for the week, which it's fine. But yeah, not enough Moose for me. What do you think about this whole deal?
More Moose.
I got a favorite.
More Moose. Here is more Moose.
So they had an article it said details from Moose's new Impact Wrestling deal, and this was from today around 10 a.m. this morning. And it says that, this isn't a deal. The most of this article is not details. It's written by Matthew Wilkinson. And he says, according to Fightful Select, that's what he's basing this article on. So WWE had indicated an interest in Moose to some degree, which has been the case previously. When Moose signed his last deal with the company, WWE's Canyon Seaman had reached out to him to showcase the promotion's interest. But Moose opted to stick with Impact. WWE has not made any major roster signings this year, but the report noted that the company has been in contact with free agents this year, with Jay White being someone that the company was interested in. Moose's contract was originally expected to expire on June 30th, which would have led him becoming a free agent for the first time since 2016. And then, however, he ultimately decided to stay loyal. We know that. It said Impact made re-signing him a priority, and that decision paid off in the long run. It is currently unknown what the specific length of the deal is, but it is legitimately the longest in Impact Wrestling history. It means that Moose will be tied down until his mid-40s. Moose revealed he wanted his name to be synonymous with the company like AJ Styles and Kurt Angle, but he has also spoken about his shyness playing a big factor in keeping it with Impact. So what in there was a detail about his contract?
That we didn't.
We already heard. Yeah, we already heard that it was the longest one, but you can't tell us how long it is. That seems like information that people could definitely find out, because in a contract, it would be specifically printed out for how many years that this contract is valid. So nobody's going to stooge it off like how long it is, I guess. But
well, if it's in his mid-40s, you can probably do the math and get kind of a close, guess of it.
Right. And if it's the longest in history. So, you know, mid 40s, depending on what you consider mid, does that go up to 47? You know, like, is it like an 8-year deal? 8, 7, 6. It's some of those. It's one of those. So, yeah. But regardless, they didn't tell us any details. You're saying details. You know, you could have said anything else for not a clickbait title, but yeah, I mean, that's the thing. So I was looking at some of the comments in this, right? And you could tell that these people don't watch anything. Like what is this? What is this one? Don't see it. This is a man that once referred to a uwagi and zubon as a karate suit. He's adult who can't promo to save his life, not too quick to think. This bitch likes hitting on women as well. So this person, first of all, doesn't understand English, because hitting on women means something different than hitting women. Which, as other people who came to his defense in the comments, you know, would also say, who tried to stab him. So yeah, you hit a woman that tried to stab him. First of all, zubon in Japanese means pants, like what we would call pants. So if Moose was saying it in terms of the uwagi, which is the gi, you know, the top part, and the pants, then he was saying karate suit to get heat, obviously. Not that he doesn't know the difference.
Right.
Anybody that says he can't cut a promo obviously doesn't know what promos are, or anything about what's a good promo.
Absolutely not. No. How can they're obviously not watching the show?
Yeah. Maybe they're remembering Ring of Honor Moose, who wasn't as good at promos. So, yeah. But anyway, so things like that. But, you know, here we just get him for a few seconds. And, you know, you only have so much time to make the lemonade, as it were. And I thought that him talking to Leo Rush, even though it was only a couple of lines, was like, it was fine. All these guys were fine in this scene. Everybody did fine in this scene. So it's just a real, it's only there to remind everybody, hey, this thing is going on with these guys.
Yeah, we don't see any more of them the rest of the show.
Yep. So what you will see is Joe Hendry versus Yuya Uemura versus Kenny King for the Digital Media Championship. Yeah, Joe Hendry does his, does his standard We Believe, and Yuya Uemura comes out and grabs the mic and introduces himself as champion. And then Kenny King comes out and they have the match. Uh, ends with a royal flush on Yuya, so Kenny King will retain to the surprise of probably no one. I don't think anybody saw this going any differently, but what did you think?
I just thought it was interesting that it had two finishes that are kind of the same on this show, with people who are, you know, like tense, respectful friends, but there's an issue or there's a miscommunication leads to the finish.
You would think that with a sort of like a taped style show, you would look at this continuity and be like, hey, we're doing the same angle with two different people. But
One would think.
well, how was the match?
It was decent. I mean, he got across what he needed to get across, and that, it was an all right match.
Well, let me ask you about Yuya because he obviously is well, not obviously, well, maybe people don't know this even though we've mentioned it before, but he's on excursion from New Japan right now. So this is the part of his career where he goes to international territories to get experience and things before he comes back and stays with the company full time. I was recently discussing how you know, the crop of young lions that they have in New Japan now, I'm not feeling that strongly about them. I think they're getting pushed, but I don't think they're really delivering on the promise so far. And I can kind of see where they want these guys to be, and they're not quite there yet. And with Yuya, I was also struggling to see, like, I don't know what's this guy going to be when he eventually comes back with possibly a completely different gimmick, but I'm not even getting a hint of what that gimmick might be because he's just been the most, you know, and I don't mean this in an insulting way, but the most generic sort of babyface character. Even, you know, the stuff that he does in the ring is relatively safe and bland. Um, he's not showing like a ton of personality. That could have to do with the language barrier. That could have to do with the fact that if he's just like, I'm just saving all this personality for my return,
Mm-hmm.
you know, like I'm quite sure people thought, you know, other guys that end up being legends had no personality when they were on excursion too. But I don't know. I'm trying to get a handle on it. I mean, what would you see for a guy like this? Say Yuya was going to stay here in Impact. Like, what would you see for a guy like this in his current incarnation? Or
I
what would that incarnation evolve into?
I think they should keep him with Joe Hendry, kind of do what they're doing now. If they kind of do a thing where Yuya wins the digital media title, and Joe has to like be a good friend and be happy for him, but it just eats at him until finally he just snaps.
And then we get a
Heel Hendry.
heel Hendry.
Heel
I
Hendry.
don't know if I believe in heel Hendry.
It would
But
not be a difficult transition.
no, it wouldn't. But it would take the fun out of something that people are already getting behind. And you already saw them like start to dip their toe in that. You know, back with the who beat up Santino deal. Um it's like you saw a little bit of heelish stuff like as a tease, but I don't know. It seemed like you didn't even fully establish and get people behind. That's the problem when you got guys turning, you know, like when we're looking at, oh, we need to turn so and so. Like, have you really established them firmly in whatever they're doing now? Like, even though Hendry was kind of popular, there'd be other places he'd go where, you know, not that many people felt like waving their hands from side to side. You know, it's like he's not that over to the point where a turn would matter. So for a turn to mean something, you'd have to have like Joe Hendry super over everywhere he goes, getting reactions, getting the whole place to wave their hands side to side and say we believe and all this stuff. It should be similar to something that you're very sure of, like yes, rather than you know, oh well, you're only getting a pretty lukewarm reaction, so let's just turn you heel. You know, like, no, let's work harder to get the reactions that you want him to get first, and then we can worry about being a heel. You know, that's what I think.
I definitely agree. You got to make people care first.
Yeah, there's too many turns of people that's like, I don't care. You know, like, how are we supposed to care? We know this shit's fake anyway. Why do we care? So, speaking of why do we care, the flashback was from Emergence of last year. So now we're getting flashbacks to things that you and I were actually been working together and reviewing. Feel old yet? This flashback was to last year. Feel old yet? In which it was Mike Bailey versus Jack Evans. I remember commenting at the time that Jack Evans seemed extra sweaty because he's more jacked than I'd ever seen him in my life. So I was concerned he was going to have a heart attack and die in the ring. But I haven't heard of him dying of a heart attack lately, even though I've never seen him anywhere else. So hopefully Jack Evans is doing well. I will just tell you, Jack, you know, if you're listening, and I know you are, if you get off the gas, you have just as good a chance of getting work as you do on it. So they're not hiring you for your physique, bro. That's not why they're hiring you. They're hiring you because you're Jack Evans and you do crazy shit in the ring. So, you know, just be healthy, man. So going to another guy who needed to get off the gas because he's sweating worryingly, John Gresham and Mike Bailey are with Gia, no music underneath. And they discuss how Gresham doesn't like that the rules aren't being enforced, and Bailey thinks that as a team they should be able to overcome any obstacles, whether the rules are being enforced or not. He thinks that their skills should overcome them. So pure babyface from Mike Bailey as usual, and you know, John and Gresham is.
He finds a way to make that character work, which I think is amazing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, just like that impossibly naive, like this guy grew up in a monastery and was set out into the world and has completely idealistic views on everything. It's great. So there you go. Yeah, it works for him. Which, if you think about it, now that I do think about it, it is kind of like, you know, in martial arts movies, that is the story a lot of the times, right? Like some guy like trains and becomes a killer, and he goes out in the real world and he's just like, oh my God, everything's crazy. You know, I just thought we were supposed to be nice to each other and not have to use martial arts. So that's fun. Yep. Liz says, Mike Bailey just make me cringe with the weirdo smile he comes out with. Like, I'm waiting for him to go psycho and unalive the entire locker room. He might. But again, that looks creepy to us distrustful American, you know, city folk. Like, to him, he like, that's a genuine smile. You know? He keeps up this gimmick, you know? It's got the naive Karate Kid gimmick. So yeah. But anyway. So I guess the good guys of the group, the group battle that's imminent, they cut a promo, which is kind of, it's like a combination promo and a package. Like they were doing a backstage promo as a foursome, and then they also had like a package cut with music that they were like, it's almost acting as a voiceover for. So, and this was in the lights, and the lights were pink. And Kushida was wearing his X as a necklace again. So basically they sort of end with the thing of like, you know, Chris Sabin saying he's going to get his X Division title back, and Kushida just looks at him and is like, maybe, as he holds the X. So, So what do you think of this combination promo / package voiceover deal?
I just like again, these are your main baby faces right now, and that's the only time you have for them on the show.
Yes.
Again, it kind of go in proportion to as little mooses they put on the show.
True. All right. Crazy Steve tries to talk to the Death Dolls,
And we get the
they don't
return
have
of
time. They
the
don't have time for him.
yep, and we get the huddle cam back.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we love the huddle cam. So do they just set a camera on the floor for them to do that, or does the guy laying down when they do it? I just wonder.
That is a good question. We'll have to find out.
Yeah, let's find out. And then we get Rascals versus Octoball. They had their match, but you know how this is gonna end. Gresham gets rolled up in a cloud of paint. The referee literally has to like stick his head through a cloud of paint to get down and count the 1, 2, 3 here. I guess he didn't see it, smell it, feel it,
Or the
taste it.
Shh.
Nope.
Hey,
Nope. He's just like, oh, a pin. Gotta count it. Remember, this is the referee, I think, that was teaching Zicky Dice how to be a referee.
Sure was.
So nobody's watching him. Who watches the Watchmen? But anyway, go ahead.
At least like when he took that one bump and he got hit with, I think it was Wentz that nailed him, and he got caught with Wentz's legs. He didn't sell it like dead. He actually kind of like got up and was still paying attention to what was going on, but still sold the contact.
Is that Gresham you're talking about?
Might have been Gresham. I don't remember.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, well, either one of the guys is pretty, These guys have all been doing it long enough. They basically get it, even though the Rascals don't have the kind of matches I like. But the Gresham and Bailey team is interesting, and then the sort of the discord between these guys is a little different because it's not based around them accidentally kicking each other or whatever.
Right.
It's more like a difference of, idealism versus realism. So, I can relate to that more because I see a lot of people talking about how things should be, and I'm sitting over here like, yeah, it should be like that, but it ain't. So you need to adjust your life. But that's neither here nor there, as Ray would say. But yeah, all right. Well, it's time. The full video. Should I even describe what happens in this video?
It just, I was really hoping for like an actual explanation of what happened. Instead, is basically just, just blow through that so he can get to his whole wax philosophical.
Yeah. Well, as it turns out, when you see Diener, you don't see Diener stab Eric Young. And so you might have been thinking, like, did he just not stab him? Did he just leave him there? What happened here? Like, how are they going to get out of this? Well, apparently, no, everything played out the same, except they just kept the camera, whatever camera was filming this. Mind you, filming it cinematically with angles, coverage, all this other stuff, editing, this whatever documented this scene. It shows that it's just that Eric Young just wakes up. He just wakes up, gets up, and gets on a motorcycle and drives off. Is what happens. And again, like a movie, not like. So if you imagine, like, let's pretend this is real for a sec. So, Diener has a whole film crew here to, document this. And then all this happens, right? Because obviously nobody went back and filmed Eric Young getting up and driving off on a motorcycle. Right.
So where are the witnesses to say, hey, this is what actually happened?
Yeah. Well, even before we get to that, the original footage, I would have assumed if it was submitted to Impact Wrestling to air, hey, please air my murder on your show. So Diener comes in with the video and says, here, air the murder. That would mean that he had the whole thing. So he had the whole thing, and he only shows the part where he stabbed Eric Young, even though it didn't show him stabbing it. Because if you were filming this like a movie, you would say, definitely don't get the stabbing on camera. All right? I don't want to go to jail or anything. So you just cut this and submitted part of it, which means you had the rest of it this whole time. So who was adding the voiceover that Eric Young was doing on his riding his motorcycle? You know, like who was doing the ADR for this, you know, in the full finished product that was then chopped up and then part of it was given to Impact and the rest withheld, apparently, until Eric Young had the rest of it. Or was this whole Eric Young's thing? Am I misreading this? Because Eric Young was still in, you know, as the design and the leader and all this other stuff, Violent by Design, whatever it was, is his thing. And he had the whole footage. And who submitted it then? It wouldn't have been him because he would have been dead, allegedly. So if it was his whole thing, then why would he only submit the part where he gets stabbed and then keep the rest for himself? I mean, I'm saying this and I'm not yelling and screaming. I'm trying to be facetious because to even give any level of credence to this absolute foolishness is insulting to everyone. I'm insulting myself even recounting any of it right now, but I'm trying to paint a picture for you of how much we don't need stuff like this. I mean, tell me your thoughts.
And again, we needed an explanation. We needed something. This was not it. This was not it. Like it just defies all logic, and yeah, insulting to the intelligence and a slap in the face of anybody who wants to have any kind of believability with this. Like so like you could drive so many holes through it. It doesn't make any sense.
Well, I would also, as I was watching this bullshit, I was thinking like, who is the person out there who's like, forget the people who are making it, but like the people that are watching it. Who is the person out there that's like, oh, awesome. Awesome. This is why I love Impact. Like, who's out there putting this shit over? Like, how entertainment deficient must you be that you could watch this and be like, I can't wait till next week? Like, what is your daily content intake like that's so bad that this is in any way acceptable to you as a viewer? Even if you were just one of those people that's like, wrestling's just supposed to be fun. You don't think too hard about it. It's wrestling. Well, this ain't wrestling, dude. This is film school dropouts trying to do shit that they weren't good enough to do for a 9-to-5 gig. Oh, we'll do it in wrestling. Like you're trying to be, you have clearly you had cinematic aspirations, and you know you didn't get hired for the things that you wanted to be hired for, so you settled for this. I mean, is that the case? I really don't know. One art form does not equate to another, though. I mean, movies are movies, and pro wrestling is pro wrestling, and they're not supposed to meet in this way. They damage both of the art forms. If you,
it's like I work real hard to be a pro wrestler, and a bus may ask him a great pro wrestler, like, okay, you can wrestle. Can you be a cinematographer?
Yeah, no, you cannot. Even if you take the Mona Lisa, right? The painting, the actual painting of the Mona Lisa, and you cut it out of the frame and you fold it into the most beautiful origami sculpture or whatever, like you make the Mona Lisa into like some intricate crane or whatever thing you want to make. You know, like you still ruined one piece of art to get to your piece of art. You ruined the established piece of art. Okay, now the Mona Lisa's ruined, and it doesn't matter how nice your new sculpture is. You ruined the original art. Now, this isn't even a great piece of art. This would be like cutting the Mona Lisa out of the frame to make a shitty paper airplane that doesn't even fly. That's what the equivalent of this is. Like, instead of just using a piece of notebook paper for your airplane, you cut a priceless piece of art into an airplane. I'm not comparing impact to a priceless piece of art. I'm just using an example that everybody will realize what I mean when I'm saying, like, obviously classic paintings we look at as an art form. Pro wrestling maybe not on that level of an art form, but it's certainly a separate art form than, you know, traditional film and television and those type of things. It's a weird sport thing, but ultimately it's still a sport, and that's what it was before there was television. Before there was television, we packed people into rooms, gather them together, and watch two guys fight in a ring. That's what it originally was. And then when television came along, you could bring that into people's homes. But the art form of making people think that a fight was happening when it was really a work, that's the art form. That's the original. Okay?
Make people believe.
Yes. Nobody believes this. Nobody will ever believe this. So why are we doing it? Even if you wanted to do this, even if, it should be found footage. You have one camera. You follow everybody in a one camera shot. And you can do clever editing tricks. You know, whether it's, you know, like the Blair Witch Project or anything that's supposedly done in one shot, you know, like Hitchcock's Rope or any of these other things where they have ways to like hide the edits, you know. But if you're going to do something like this, it has to be found footage. You don't turn it into like a cinematic with a cheesy voiceover written by Vince McMahon. You just don't do it. Like, don't do it. But they did it. And if I was Eric Young, I'd be like, God damn, what would I come back to? Should I just come right back into the Impact front door and just start saying no? You know, like, is that what I have to do here? He could have just got this over with in 5 seconds and be like, yeah, he stabbed me, but I was wearing 2 shirts or something. I don't know. Whatever. It doesn't matter. Just anything but this.
How much might have been his idea?
Well, then Eric Young has even less respect that I would have thought possible for me. I always looked at Eric Young as a guy that kind of got it. So if this had anyway had his approval or anything that he had to do, and he would have had to do quite a bit of work, because essentially they made a short film here. So that means there would have been lots of chances for him to sit around while they're waiting to shoot the next shot, and for him to contemplate his actions. Like, am I really going to put this helmet on? Like, I just survived a stabbing. Am I thinking about road safety? You know, like, is that what's first and foremost on my agenda? It's like, oh, well, luckily I just walked away from this situation with my life, but let me strap on the helmet for safety, you know? Just fucking, are you telling me that killing people off in a pro wrestling show may be a mistake? I think we can all draw our own conclusions. There's a lot of mistakes made in pro wrestling, and everything I complained about at SummerSlam pales in comparison to this. So hopefully this will be the end of it, because we now know the end of the story, because Eric Young is back and he was saying the whole world will see what happens. Which, that's, first of all, that's a bold claim, calling, like, you know, less than 250,000 people, the whole world. The entire population of the United States won't even see what happened, let alone the world. But I get what he was trying to say. Fuck. I don't know. Well, that's it. That's Impact. We're all stunned into silence for this. But there you go. So not super pleased with this one. On top of all this bullshit that I just laid out for you, I'll remind you there was a severe lack of moose on the show. It was there, but not nearly enough. So we'll see what happens. But that's gonna do it for us tonight. So, Brandon, you want to tell the people where they can find you and everything you're up to these days?
As always, you can find me on Twitter at X now at Transarchistia, and also on Twitch at twitch.tv/Miss Tia the Transarchist, and also on Substack at HMG Brandon.
That's right. And you can find me in way too many places here on Hami Media Group, whether it's the Next Level Wrestling Review with Big Ray Hernandez every Wednesday at 8 a.m. Pacific, 11 a.m. Eastern, or whether it's on Monday Locker Rooms, Light the Fuses, Collision Wreckages, anything. You know, I took it easier this week, so a little bit less of me, which I'm sure everybody was happy with. But ready to be called into action at any particular time. So I will continue to do so, and you can find me on all the social medias at Opinion Haver. If you have anything you need from me besides those shows on channelattitude.com, and you can also, don't forget to check out Wrestling with Rip Rogers whenever they do it. Concrete, and then you've got of course Stevie Richards. His wrestling analysis channel is just out of control. It's just blowing up way too big. I want to look and see right here live at the time of this recording. He has 21.4 thousand subscribers. Now, last time we were talking, he probably had something like 14, 16, something like that. And got another 10,000. People are just lining up to be a part of this. And if you like the YouTube stuff, then you might even want to check out the Patreon stuff, because he's got completely different content over on Patreon, but it's coming out just as frequently, if not more frequently. And today, like as of today, the brand new video on Patreon, a short little video where he explains the one thing that was missing from the Brock Lesnar and Cody feud. And as much as I hate to disagree with Stevie Richards, I'm pretty sure they were missing a lot more than just one thing. But this is the one thing he wanted to add to the whole thing, and especially regarding the finish of the SummerSlam match. So I won't spoil it for you because that's paid content, but I will say that even in 5 minutes, Stevie can be very insightful, and it's everyone's pleasure to be able to get inside the mind of this man who's stayed humble and quiet for so long, even though he had so much to offer, and we're seeing it now. So better late than never. So check out everything Stevie Richards is doing. That's Stevie Richards Wrestling Analysis channel, which is separate from the Stevie Richards Fitness channel, which is also pretty good. And he's going to have some more content coming on that as well, which he also updated in a short. So keep your eyes on Stevie Richards, man. And that's going to do it for us. So for Brandon, I'm the vet, and I don't have a sign.